Hello there everyone and welcome, it is Niran here, and today it is time for episode number 14 of our F1 2016 career mode here with Renault. Last episode you guys saw me go through unlucky number 13 in Belgium, although in the end it didn't prove to be that unfortunate. We did a pretty decent job. If you haven't seen the race then make sure to go and check it out, because it was a very interesting one. Off the back of it though, we actually made two upgrades to the car, one a reduction in drag and the other an increase in fuel efficiency, because I've been told in the comment section that the race in Abu Dhabi is very hard on fuel, so at some point we do actually need to upgrade that. We thought, well, I thought, well, we've got 250 resource points spare, we might as well go ahead and do that. So we've gone ahead and done that, and we've improved the fuel efficiency with the fuel injection system, and we've also reduced the drag on the car, which should make us even faster in a straight line, which is obviously very good going into this round of the season, which is round number 14 in Italy for Monza. Now, obviously this is a track where straight line speed is basically vital, and Sauber have decided that that is the way forward as well. They've brought two upgrades to the table. They are now better than Haas on the vehicle comparison, but even more importantly than that, Ferrari at their home Grand Prix in front of the Tifosi have brought two upgrades along with them. They've reduced the chassis weight and increased the downforce of their car, which is huge. Those are massive upgrades to bring. Those are two of the most, I think they are the biggest upgrades when it comes to the increase in vehicle performance. So they are now right with Mercedes, which is just what Mercedes didn't need. They're already struggling in the championship against Sebastian Vettel, who's leading it by quite some distance. If he can extend his lead by a distance here today at Ferrari's home Grand Prix, Mercedes are in serious issues, because they're not much better now than Ferrari at this point in the career mode. We though are moving on into the story of practice, and you can see that we are doing the track acclimatization in the background. We didn't actually get the purple score on the first lap because it all really fell apart in the final few corners. We're actually doing basically, I think we were perfect until the final three corners. We got to Ascari and it all fell apart. You can see that on the second attempt we are going to come across the line and get 345, which is enough to get 50 resource points and a perfect score for track acclimatization, as is basically always the case. Now that it's time to get into the qualifying pace, and you can see we've started our first lap. We're already up on the delta by a tenth of a second down into turn one, and that is a McLaren parking itself on the apex, and that is lap done. So cheers, thank you very much to Fernando Alonso there for completely ruining our lap time. We decided to actually restart the program in the end, and I was too lazy to just go around the lap again. And you can see that actually the driver ahead of us is once again Fernando Alonso, and by the end of the lap we're half a tenth down and we're actually right with Fernando Alonso. This could cause issues again. The Spaniard is clearly determined to completely ruin our practice session. We gain a lot of time on his slipstream, go up the inside of him though through the parabolica, but then lock up and go wide. We're just about up by 200ths of a second on the delta. Going to use Alonso as a slingshot out of the parabolica with some slipstream, and we go through, and in the end he did sort of help us, but I still wasn't really too happy with him about the blocking, so we are being a little bit petulant and doing a little bit of blocking of our own to ruin his next lap on his medium tyres, and we get a bit of contact there with the Spaniard. It wasn't really fair at all, to be honest with you, literally just parking it on the apex on our lap in practice. I mean, it didn't matter too much because it was only practice, but we had a very important practice program going on there, being qualifying pace, which revolves around being quick. So Fernando Alonso, who is obviously our rival on the game at the moment in this career mode, really doing his best to scupper our weekend. You can see that in terms of qualifying goals, Renault have actually lowered the bar now. They want us to just qualify 14th or higher, beat our rival Alonso, and of course beat our teammate, the Dane Kevin Magnussen. So let's see if we can do that by checking out the qualifying report. The Tifosi were out in full force to watch Ferrari in qualifying, and they weren't disappointed in Q1 with Sebastian Vettel fastest. The major shock of the session was Daniel Ricciardo going out in P17 along with Fernando Alonso in the McLaren. Felipe Nasr made it into Q2, but a 5-place grid drop sees him start P21. Normal service was resumed in Q2 with Mercedes claiming a 1-2. Romain Grosjean took a solid P14 for Haas despite the team's lack of development this season, whilst Yasufu pipped Hülkenberg to a Q3 spot. But Monza would not see a prancing horse on pole this year, as Nico Rosberg grabbed P1 ahead of Kimi Raikkonen in the Ferrari. Williams showed promise by locking out row 3, whilst Verstappen will be disappointed with P10 only. So all of this means that we'll see Nico Rosberg on pole for the Italian Grand Prix in 2016. He shares the front row of the grid with the Ferrari of Kimi Raikkonen in front of the home crowd. Lewis Hamilton starts third in front of championship leader Sebastian Vettel in P4, with the two Williams cars on row 3 of Valtteri Bottas then Felipe Massa. Daniel Kvyat gets yet another good qualifying session in P7 in front of Sergio Perez in P8, then it's Yusufa and Verstappen to round out the top 10 in front of Hülkenberg and Carlos Sainz in 12th. So once again, it appears as if we have outperformed the performance of the car, really, getting 9th on the grid after a pretty decent showing and getting into Q3, and finally, once getting into Q3, we don't actually qualify 10th on the grid. We did actually manage to beat someone in the final qualifying session of the day. Max Verstappen having an absolute shocker, so he starts P10, we start P9. We've absolutely obliterated Alonso in terms of the rivalry as well there, due to beating him quite convincingly there in qualifying and getting into Q3. That also earned us quite a few resource points as well. You can see though we are now on the grid and it's actually raining here at Monza, which is quite a surprise to be honest with you. Don't tend to get too much wet weather here in Italy for the Italian Grand Prix, especially here at Monza. We have got a bit, and the Mercedes of Nico Rosberg starting on pole perhaps wasn't banking on wet weather. Obviously the qualifying session was completely dry, so it's not a great barometer of who's got the pace going into the Grand Prix. We'll have to see whether Ferrari can keep up with Mercedes now that they're basically level with them in the vehicle comparison. You can see in the background here is the race strategy and session forecast. It's going to be a 2-stopper on Inters, and it looks as if it is actually going to be like that because it looks as if it's going to be light rain all the way through the race. So it should be a race where we stay on the same type of compound, in this instance being the intermediate tyres, which obviously cope best with that light rain that we appear to be getting throughout the entire Grand Prix. The entire 27 laps of this Italian Grand Prix here in Monza, and we have got a very good position on the grid. Realistically, the Italian fans want to come to see us though. They'll come to see the Ferrari boys of Raikkonen and Vettel will be hoping that he can extend this championship lead after the Mercedes was starting to get points back on him in recent times. Mercedes now only 12 points behind Ferrari in a Constructors' Championship. The Prancing Horses will be hoping that that trend does not continue on their home turf. We though are lining up on the grid. Verstappen, Hülkenberg and Sainz are lining up immediately behind us. We've got Sergio Perez there to the right hand side, and a Toro Rosso of Daniel Kvyat once again with a very good qualifying session for himself there in 7th. Ahead of him are the two Williams cars, which seem to have finally got their act together. Meanwhile, the lights now are starting to illuminate. The 5 lights are now on here, the Italian Grand Prix, and they are now off, and we are underway in these light rain conditions. It looks like an okay reaction time. The launch though isn't so good. Verstappen gets a little bit of a run on us, but we managed to stay ahead of him. Nico Hülkenberg is there as well. We've got some contact from behind as Perez and Daniel Kvyat close the door in front of us. We had to lift off and someone's running to the back of us. I think it was Max Verstappen. Going through the first chicane, we're getting hung out to dry a little bit. I think we managed to get past Kvyat. Got a few people sorting themselves out in front of us there. Perez just swoops across in front of us, cuts us off completely, so we have to actually dab off the accelerator, or off the throttle even, and we've actually still managed to get past Felipe Massa there in the Williams. We also managed to get past Daniel Kvyat with an absolute shocker of a start with Toro Rosso going through the first corner, a little bit of a tap there on the back end of Sergio Perez, going through the second chicane of the lap, but down towards Lesmo 1, we are up into P7, it's 2 places gained on the first lap. Decent start for ourselves. It wasn't actually the best getaway. It looked as if Hülkenberg and Verstappen had the run on us straight away. This is how it looked from Daniel Ricciardo, who of course, as you know from the qualifying report, had an absolute shocker of a qualifying session down in 16th, but look at that for a move up the inside, locking up both tyres, but gaining a heck of a lot of positions. Daniel Kvyat there getting bullied, getting given the hip and shoulder by Max Verstappen and the other Red Bull. Hülkenberg also managing to get past, so it was a pretty shocking start for the Russian in the Toro Rosso, but Ricciardo lunging up the inside of multiple drivers through turn 1 and gaining a lot of positions. Talking of gaining positions, we've gone past Valtteri Bottas there through Ascari. He was being hung out to dry by Sergio Perez and lost a lot of time. A rather opportunistic move coming out of Ascari, getting past the Finnish driver in the Williams, and we've now gained another position, and we're up into P6 from P9 on the grid. Honourable mention as well for Sergio Perez, who's also gained 3 corners on this lap as well. Meanwhile, what's going on behind us currently is absolute carnage, in all honesty. It's Max Verstappen trying to get past Felipe Massa. It's 3 abreast. Hülkenberg there on the outside. Kvyat's in there. There's a McLaren. Ricciardo. Verstappen there getting a little bit out of shape. He comes back onto the track, causes a little bit of a mini pile-up behind him. He's lost part of his front wing there on Nico Hülkenberg, and you can see there by the board on the left-hand side, for some reason that has brought out the safety car. No one spinning, no one going out of the Grand Prix, but contact between Verstappen and Nico Hülkenberg. Clearly the debris on the track was deemed far too dangerous in terms of people running over it maybe on the next lap, so Charlie Whiting deciding that a safety car is needed at this moment in the Grand Prix. Very early early on in the Grand Prix as well doesn't really mean there's going to be any sort of change in strategy. I don't think it's really worth coming in this early. You can see that the tyres are barely warm there on the right-hand side. The safety car that was coming in now at the end of lap 4, you can see we've joined the end of the train. Sergio Perez ahead of us in 5th there in the Force India, doing a very, very good job. In front of him are the 2 Ferraris, then it's the 2 Mercedes. We are currently sat in P6, preparing to get under green flag conditions and underway racing once again. Bottas is behind us, Massa's there, Kvyat, Ricciardo and Verstappen as well. Verstappen obviously caused that safety car with that little incident there with Nico Hülkenberg. We are though back to racing speed as we go on to lap 5. The green flags are out and we are underway, and we're going to try and immediately capitalise on this situation by getting into the slipstream of Sergio Perez. And despite that Force India having a Mercedes power unit in the back of it, we're going to try and go up the inside, down into the chicane. We lock up a little bit, but it looks like we're going to get the job done, and indeed we do, and we're up into P5, catching Sergio Perez there a little bit off guard, perhaps thinking that maybe no one was going to make a move that early on after the safety car. And on to lap 5 here of this 27 lap race, we are up into P5, and what a first few laps it's been. Meanwhile, there's battling going on basically everywhere, and up towards the front of the field, Kimi Raikkonen is simply driving past the Mercedes there of Nico Rosberg, and it seems as if Ferrari have managed to bridge the gap perhaps between themselves and Mercedes in terms of power unit output, because that was a very simple move for Kimi Raikkonen down into Ascari on lap 6, though we completely missed they missed the corner completely, let alone the apex, completely misjudged the braking zone, gone into the gravel, and we've lost a heck of a lot of time. Seb Vettel in front of us has galloped away down this back straight towards the Parabolica. Thankfully we haven't lost a position. We've lost a lot of track time to Sergio Perez and everyone else behind him as well. The 2 Williams cars are there as well, so not ideal. Obviously going off into the gravel is not what you want. Kimi Raikkonen setting fastest lap of the race, and we're struggling for traction out of the Parabolica, and Sergio Perez is going to breeze past us in the Force India and take P5 back as we go on to lap 7 of this Grand Prix. We though are getting back at him. Going into the slipstream briefly, Valtteri Bottas is there as well. Down into turn 1, Sergio Perez has the inside line. We can try and swing it around the outside, have the inside line for the second part of the chicane, and we've just about managed to hold on to the position in front of Sergio Perez. Valtteri Bottas trying to get in the mix as well, with Felipe Massa and the other Williams challenging too, and we just about hold on to P5 here. We are starting to lose a lot of time to the guys ahead of us, even though they're battling, and we're struggling ready for traction out of Ascari. Sergio Perez, Valtteri Bottas and Felipe Massa all in our slipstream, but that's an engine blowout for Valtteri Bottas at high speed, and he is out of the Grand Prix, and there's a plume of smoke coming out the back end of that Williams as the power unit gives up on Valtteri Bottas, and he is out of the Grand Prix. What on earth happened there? This is a replay on board with Felipe Massa, and it's such bad timing for Bottas, who was trying to get past Perez and myself, and he's now out of the Grand Prix. On to lap 8 and now lap 9. Massa's managed to dispatch Sergio Perez, and he's trying to make a move on us, and they're trying to go 3 abreast. Perez going through the middle of myself and Felipe Massa down into the first corner. This is a completely action-packed Grand Prix, and we've got a safety car just as Sergio Perez and Felipe Massa made it past us, and I think we're going to have to give those positions back, reduce our time to match the required delta, and I think we're going to have to allow, yes we are, Perez and Massa have to go through. It's actually only an illegal overtake on Perez, which is quite frustrating. We had to let Massa through in order to let Perez through as well. The safety car though is out, and I can only imagine that is for the Williams of Valtteri Bottas being parked there down the back straight after that engine blowout, and we're going to take advantage of this. We were meant to actually come in on lap 9, and it is actually lap 9 now, so this has worked perfectly for us. The timing of the safety car is brilliant, because to make this 2-stopper work, we're meant to be pitting now. We're going on to another set of intermediate tyres, but for those eagle-eyed amongst you, you'll notice that we've got a new car ahead of us. It's the Red Bull of Daniel Ricciardo, who's jumped us in the pit lane, and the trend of the Renault pit crew just completely gifting the opposition positions in the pit stop phase has continued. We've lost another position in pit stops. This time it's Daniel Ricciardo who goes through into P12, but that's because a lot of cars around us and that are currently ahead of us haven't actually pitted. Felipe Massa came in. You can see on the next lap now, moving on to lap 11, we've gained the majority of those positions back, including Kevin Magnussen, but unfortunately for us, despite pitting on probably the optimal lap, Sergio Perez has still managed to get out ahead of us. He decided not to pit on that first lap of the safety car, left it one more lap, but because he hadn't actually caught up to the safety car, he didn't actually lose any time whatsoever. So we're now actually down into P9. I don't think it's quite a net P9, because Jenson Button, you can see, still hasn't pitted. He's up in P5 at the moment. I think it's a net 8th. So we have lost quite a lot of time due to that safety car, quite a lot of positions, which is quite unfortunate. He has closed the field back up again, and we're actually going to try and make another move on another driver straight after the safety car like we did last time. It's Daniel Ricciardo this time, down in towards turn 1. Ricciardo Ricciardo brakes much later than us, but we'll have the inside line on the Australian. Can we get the move done? We clobber the curb on the inside. It really unsettles the car, but we do just about manage to get past Daniel Ricciardo, who now has Marcus Ericsson behind him. Honourable shout out to Marcus Ericsson in the Sauber. Henriksen? What, Marcus? Yeah, Marcus Henriksen from whole career. He's changed career path. Marcus Ericsson, the Sauber, who's doing a very good job at the moment, up in P11. You can see, though, at the moment, we've got massive amounts of battling going on in front of us. This is Sergio Perez and Jenson Button and Felipe Massa, and this is wonderful opportunistic driving from Sergio Perez going past Button and now trying to get up the inside of Felipe Massa. This is all going on just in front of us. You can see the two Ferraris are battling with two Mercedes as well. Brilliant action and battling all the way through the order, and that is brilliant opportunistic driving from the Mexican driver Sergio Perez there, getting up into P5. What driving that is, using Felipe Massa's move on Jenson Button, or just them moving across the track to then get a great run on them and go past both of them down into turn 1. Perez certainly driver of the day so far. We though got to try and stick with Massa and Perez, so we're trying to dispatch Jenson Button very quickly, who still hasn't pitted, and at this point it looks as if he might be trying to go for a one stop because we're almost halfway through the race. If he pits now, he may just be able to get towards the end and only do one more pit stop. Obviously everyone else has only got to do one pit stop as well, so we'll have to see how that goes for Jenson Button, because that could be a master strategy. A master move there from Felipe Massa though down into Ascari, and it's allowed us to get through as well past Sergio Perez, whose brilliant work in getting past Button and Massa in one go has been completely unravelled now because Massa's gone through past him, and so have we, and now Daniel Ricciardo is trying to attack him as well down towards the Parabolica. On to lap 16 now, and still the battling is rife in this one. Felipe Massa just ahead of us. It looks as if we've outbroken ourselves slightly, and I think we just about get through. It wasn't actually an intended move in all honesty. We're actually just wanting to keep behind Felipe Massa. Slightly outbroke ourselves, just broke a little bit later than Massa. Struggling for traction there coming out of the first corner as well, which is not ideal. Later on to lap 16 down into Ascari, we've got yellow flags. There's a car off to the side of the track. It's Kimi Raikkonen, and the Ferraris and Mercedes have been battling all day so far, but it's ended in tragedy for Kimi Raikkonen. He's off and in the gravel down in Ascari. He might be beached for the rest of the race. Kimi Raikkonen is certainly in issues, and so are we now at the moment, because Felipe Massa is trying to get past us down towards the Parabolica. We've also got other moves going on. This is Seb Vettel in front of us, going up into P2 in front of Lewis Hamilton, who goes wide through the Parabolica. You can see in the background we did manage to hold on in front of Felipe Massa there in the Williams, and now we've got a really good run on Lewis Hamilton out of nowhere, losing the back end coming out of the Parabolica and almost going into the pit lane, and now we're into the slipstream of Lewis Hamilton in this action-packed race so far. On to lap 17, looking up the inside of Lewis Hamilton down into the first corner. We've both broken far too late. We've both outbroken ourselves. Hamilton goes off the track. We just about get it stopped for the first corner, and Felipe Massa and Daniel Ricciardo managed to get around Lewis Hamilton as well, who's really struggling. We'll have to see a replay then of this incident. It might have been contact between Hamilton and Raikkonen, which would explain why Hamilton's now struggling so much. It was down into Ascari. Hamilton was making a move on Rosberg, who was leading the race at the time, comes back onto the track, and there's contact between himself and Kimi Raikkonen. Potentially that contact, that impact, has broken something on Lewis Hamilton's car, because he seems to be outbraking himself absolutely everywhere. Coming through Lesmo 1 now here on lap 17. Seb Vettel's up into second place as Rosberg now leads, and this is what's going on behind us, and it's Lewis Hamilton again. This is a replay, outbraking himself. He's got some sort of brake issue, coming back onto the track and swiping into Nico Hülkenberg and breaking the Force India driver's front wing. A really dangerous re-entry onto the track there from the British driver. There's no rest for the wicked in this one, because now we're under threat as well. Enough about Lewis Hamilton. It's back to our race, down into Ascari. Felipe Massa trying to get around the outside. There's been no respite in this Grand Prix whatsoever for us. We're getting attacked from all angles, and now it's Felipe Massa and Daniel Ricciardo who circle around us like sharks here, trying to get this final podium position as it now stands. We've silently made our way up into third place because Kimi Raikkonen and Lewis Hamilton have attacked each other's cars and have ended up worse for wear. Coming around the final corner, the Parabolica getting a little bit wide onto the AstroTurf and onto the paint, which is not what you want. We're going to get a shocking exit once again. We've struggled for traction all day long, and it's continuing now. Daniel Ricciardo and Felipe Massa both trying to get past us here. Massa's going to go to the inside. There'll be space along the outside for Daniel Ricciardo as we squeeze Massa to the inside of the track. Ricciardo has the racing line. He goes around the outside of us. We're alongside each other. Three abreast. There's no room. We have contact with Massa, and then the pincer effect puts Ricciardo into Massa's side pod. Romain Grosjean's retired from the race. Sergio Perez is in the mix as well. Ricciardo gets a shocking run on the corner, and myself and Perez both go around the outside of Ricciardo. Daniel Kvyat's getting involved as well, and this is utter carnage at the moment. Massa manages to drive off into the distance at the moment, but Massa and Ricciardo just crossing over. There was no room for three people realistically. On the minimap we've got a car stopped. That's Romain Grosjean, who's broken down in the Haas. He is out of the Grand Prix. But going down into turn 1 there, we had Ricciardo on the inside, we had Massa on the outside, the lines just merged, and it was an absolute nightmare. Thankfully, we all just about get through it. On to lap 18, we've got cars in the pit lane, Massa's in, Ricciardo's in, we've stayed out, so we're up into P2 because Rosberg's in as well, or sorry, Vettel's in, and Sergio Perez is attacking us for the 65th time in this Grand Prix, down into turn 1, locking up and squeezing the Mexican driver to the outside of the track, and once again, we are having to give people the hip and shoulder left, right and centre just to stay in front of people at the moment. Up into P2, sorry, because of the people pitting. Rosberg has come in now. We're coming in for our second and final pit stop of the day. Sergio Perez is right behind us, and I swear to the heavens if we get leapfrogged again in a pit stop, I will not be happy with our pit crew. We're going to come in again, but Sergio Perez's pit crew is earlier in the pit lane, which puts us at a massive disadvantage. Kevin Magnussen's into the pit lane as well, and we have been held, and we have lost out to Sergio Perez, and we've lost out to everyone else as well who's got the undercut on us. Magnussen's in the pit lane. Jenson Button's gone through, so I think he is actually trying to one-stop because he's not going to pit again now here on lap 20 of this Grand Prix, and he actually may go to the end with just doing a one-stop. We've been jumped there by Massa and Kvyat, but we appear to have stayed ahead of Daniel Ricciardo straight out of the pit lane. There's already battling going on in front of us just to basically top off this Grand Prix. Kvyat and Perez get awful runs out of the first corner, and opportunistically we go right around the outside of the both of them, and it doesn't even matter that we've lost out to Perez in the pit crew, in the pit lane, sorry, because we go straight back past him as he gets an awful run out of the corner. Now he's got to run on us down towards the chicane. We hold on by going defensive, and now we've got to try and catch Massa and of course Jenson Button in front of us, who obviously doesn't have as much pace as us naturally because we're quicker cars, and he's also on much more, well, warm tyres at this point in the Grand Prix. We're going purple now through the first and second sector as well, which is obviously going to help our cause because we're trying to pass Massa, and we've also then got to try and pass Jenson Button as well if we want to finish on the podium in this Grand Prix. And you can see we even set a fastest lap of the Grand Prix there, 1:33.6, going purple through the entire lap, and now we're right with Felipe Massa onto lap 22, going through Curva Grande, and it's a simple move, even in lean fuel mixture, going purple again, and we're absolutely flying at the moment. These tyres are working well, where the track is starting to dry out, I'm not entirely sure, but this Renault is handling beautifully at the moment. Coming through Ascari, we've got yellow flags out again, we've gone far too deep into the corner. Felipe Massa's right behind us, we're struggling again for traction and grip because we made an absolute hash of the start of the corner. Felipe Massa right on the back of us. In front of us, Jenson Button. Shout out to him in the McLaren. Is currently on the podium. What a Grand Prix he's having at the moment. Sebastian Vettel, though, appears to be in the lead at the moment, which is quite confusing because Rosberg was there. Lewis Hamilton is down in 20th position. He's actually being lapped at the moment. That's why he's behind Jenson Button. He's actually been lapped in this Grand Prix. We've got a car in the pit lane, and it's Nico Rosberg in the Mercedes who's making another pit stop in this Grand Prix. So whether he's got some sort of damage, I'm not entirely sure. Down into the first corner, Hamilton trying to unlap himself, but he's gone deep again because of that braking / suspension issue that he picked up with contact from Raikkonen. Now he's getting in the way of both Button and Felipe Massa. Button, who's now been promoted up into second position in this Grand Prix, and this is what happened to Nico Rosberg to take him out of contention for winning, potentially even getting any points, and he's hit the back of his teammate. It's utter disaster. It's Mercedes cars clashing again, and this time it is Nico Rosberg hitting the back end of Hamilton, who's been all over the place. He's meant to be being lapped. That is absolute disaster, and he breaks it far too late again. He's got some sort of braking issue. He needs to retire from the Grand Prix. He almost poleaxed the back of his teammate there, going through the second chicane, and an absolute nightmare for Toto Wolff and Niki Lauda. They've got some explaining to do now in the interviews after the race. So was Lewis Hamilton, who appeared to almost intentionally block his teammate. I'm sure he didn't. I'm sure there was some sort of miscommunication, but whatever the circumstance, it's taken Nico Rosberg well out of the running, and having had a four-way battle for the lead, we've now got Sebastian Vettel, who's the last man standing. Everyone else has been taken out for some sort of reason. Raikkonen, then Hamilton, then Rosberg, and it's just left Vettel alone. Button's capitalised. He's up into second place, but not for long, because we've blitzed up the inside of him down towards Ascari, because that Honda power unit obviously doesn't give out too much output, and up the inside, through Ascari we go, and up into P2, drifting through the next ensuing corners. But Jenson Button still staying within contact distance, really. Perez and Massa will obviously be on the case soon. They'll be on the scene too in trying to actually pass Jenson Button, who seems to be holding his own at the moment. On to lap 26, the penultimate lap of the Grand Prix. He's still pressurising us down into the first corner. We've outbroken ourselves massively. We're going to have to go across the rumble strips. We've lost a lot of time. We have to basically slow down to 0 miles an hour to avoid getting any sort of corner cutting penalty, and it's allowed Jenson Button back through, so we've got all that work to do. The tyre wear doesn't appear to be much of an issue. Sergio Perez has managed to pass Felipe Massa behind, so he's now watching on from a safe distance as all this goes on in front of him. At the end of the penultimate lap, we have got to try and get past Jenson Button here on the final lap of the Grand Prix to take P2. We're currently sat on the podium. We've still got to watch out for Sergio Perez behind us, who's currently sat in P4 and has had lots of pace all day long. We've got a lot of pace in a straight line in comparison to Jenson Button. We breeze past him in that McLaren Honda and up into P2 down towards turn 1. We are up into second place and equaling our best performance in a Formula 1 Grand Prix so far, just about getting the car stopped down into turn 1. Later on to the final lap of the race, onto Lesmo 1. We've got a shocking run out of the corner and down towards Ascari, and Jenson Button is right there. Sergio Perez has caught us as well. Felipe Massa's been left in the spray here. But down towards Ascari then for the final time. We've got some contact down into the corner there from Jenson Button, who taps the back end of the car, which has unsettled us. We've just about got the car stopped for the corner. In the meantime, Sebastian Vettel is coming around the final corner to win in front of the Tifosi. Ferrari win their home Grand Prix. But in all honesty, no offence to Sebastian Vettel, that's not what we really care about at the moment. Coming out of Ascari, we're still just about ahead of Jenson Button, who's now got Sergio Perez ducking out of the slipstream and trying to go up the inside on the final lap of the Grand Prix, trying to take the final podium place down into the Parabolica. Can he do it? Round the Parabolica we come. We are going to hold on to P2. Perez and Button are alongside each other coming through the final corner of the Grand Prix. We are going to come across the line to take second place here in Italy. Oh my goodness gracious me, what a Grand Prix that was. Like, on a level, that was probably one of the greatest Grand Prix we've ever had on this channel. Honestly, that's well up there, top 3 best ever Grand Prix that we've ever had. Out of the probably, 60, 70 Grand Prix I've ever uploaded, that is well up there with one of the best. Sebastian Vettel tops it all off by winning for Ferrari at the team's home Grand Prix. The Tifosi will be going wild, but we were up there on the podium again, taking second position, and Sergio Perez there getting third on the final lap, beating Jenson Button. Poor Button, he still gets fourth. It's a wonder strategy from McLaren to pull off that one stop. Apparently it says a 2 stop, so I don't know when he pitted the second time. Whatever he did, whenever he pitted, it was a master stroke in strategy. He managed to take fourth in the end, but does just miss out on the podium. And I've seen the rest of the order. Lewis Hamilton, the only man to get lapped, and that of course has hurt him massively in the Drivers' Championship, and has helped Vettel to usually 87 points now clear of Lewis Hamilton. Verstappen in third, Rosberg still in fourth, having been in the lead at one stage in that Grand Prix. Ricciardo fifth. We've actually managed to jump Raikkonen and Kvyat into sixth in the championship after our incredible run of form recently. Then it's Sainz. Perez obviously getting the podium, jumps above Alonso in 10th, and then the rest of the order as you'll have seen it a moment ago. Then it's the Constructors' Championship, and it's a good day for Renault in terms of that as well. We've now jumped 5 points clear of McLaren, who obviously got a great result of their own, with Jenson Button there grabbing 4th place, but it was not enough to hold us back even. I don't even know what I was about to say, hold us back then. Williams and Force India though still in that battle, so we have got to watch out for those guys. Obviously Perez getting a podium as well, so it's a pretty bad day at the office for Williams in comparison, even though Massa got a top 5 finish. But whatever the circumstance, you can see the resource points in our background. I'll tell you who it was a bad day for, actually. Toro Rosso, who got barely any points in comparison to the guys behind them, although I think they seem pretty solid in P4 in the Constructors. You can see we've absolutely smacked Alonso out of the park when it comes to the rivalry at the moment, absolutely dominating that after such a good race there in Italy, and a very good race overall, a very good weekend overall. But what an astonishing Grand Prix. I know Alex Cameron's going to tell me in the comment section that was one of the greatest Grand Prix there's ever been, and mate, I agree. that was just an utter... I mean, Italy never fails to entertain, but that was on another level, just overtaking constantly. I've got a sore throat now, so I need to go and lie down. But I hope you've enjoyed this video, I hope you've enjoyed this race. If you did, then feel free to hit the likes button, subscribe if you're new to the channel as well, and comment about enjoying the video if you enjoyed it that much. We're doing very well in the Drivers' Championship at the moment. I get the feeling this run of form will end at some point, either that or I need to turn the difficulty up. Whatever the circumstance, I'm just enjoying the entertaining races at the moment. I hope you guys are as well. But it's been a pleasure ranting at you guys today. Have a great day, enjoy yourselves, and goodbye.